Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we've got a truly unique, super atmospheric journey ahead of us. We are stepping into a narrative that basically reads like a dark, graphic, gothic fable. We're going to be exploring the story of a figure known only as the Baron, and we'll trace his haunting descent from the rigid, freezing heights of absolute nothingness down toward the messy, chaotic realm of creation. If you've ever wondered what happens when pure, cold logic and negation crash right into the spark of life, well, you are in for an incredible experience today.
I want you to let this thought sink in for just a second. Nihilism is not a destination. It is a direction. This right here is the core thesis of our explainer today. We so often think of nihilism, the complete rejection of all meaning, as a dead end, like a final stop, right? But our source material frames it entirely differently. It asks a terrifying yet honestly fascinating question. What happens when you walk far enough in that dark direction? Where do you actually end up?
Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The Crown of Decay, the Summoning at the Brocken.
We begin our dark folktale at the very peak of a dead mountain, a place known in folklore as the Brocken. It's a space of cold, unfeeling isolation. And standing right at the crown of this mountain is this dark, looming entity. The mercurial spirit of negation, the grand architect of decay. Now, according to the text, a full year has passed since this spirit was summoned here, but in this exact moment, it finally does something completely unprecedented, something it had literally never done in all that time. It turns away from the Baron.
Here's the exact path we're going to follow today. We start at year 1 with the summoning at the peak. Then we move to the descent as the spirit turns away. From there, we experience the halt, where everything changes halfway down the mountain. And finally, we reach first light and a mysterious rebirth at the summit. This is our roadmap from the absolute peak of despair straight down into a profound unknown.
Part 2, Shadow of the Void, the Sickle and the Absence. Let's look really closely at that crucial second phase, the turning away.
The visual details here are just incredibly vivid and chilling. For the very first time, the Baron can actually see the spirit's back. And what does he see? Coarse, ash-gray robes, a deep, completely obscuring hood, and the terrifying, long beak of a plague mask. It is the ultimate personification of sickness and decay, standing right there at the edge of the world.
And this brilliantly illustrates the true nature of this entity. Its terrifying beak casts a sickle-shaped shadow, but not over something living. No, it casts it over pure, unresisting absence. The plague mask here is a super powerful symbol of the oncoming void. It's a shadow that literally cuts through nothingness.
Part 3. The Edge of Nothingness. A direction, not a destination. Following this chilling moment, the Baron and the spirit begin their descent from the Brocken.
They walk down this dead mountain in complete, absolute silence, just exactly as they always have. But then, halfway down, the Baron abruptly stops walking. He stops because he has arrived at the edge. But you gotta understand, this isn't a physical cliff. It's a conceptual threshold. The edge is simply the place where nothingness ends, and the next thing, something completely unnamed and unasked for, takes over. Basically, by walking so far in the direction of nihilism, he has accidentally walked right out the other side of it.
Part 4. Terror of the Unknown, the Loss of Precision. This brings us to the profound psychological impact this boundary had on the Baron's mind. You have to remember who the Baron is. He is a man of absolute, rigid logic. And because of that, hitting this threshold absolutely shatters him. He did not know the word for what lay beyond the edge. This wasn't just, a mild confusion. This was absolute terror. His terror stems directly from a complete loss of precision. For a man who understood the mechanics of decay and nothingness perfectly, suddenly lacking the vocabulary for whatever came next was without a doubt the most terrifying thing to ever happen to him.
So the crucial point is this deep juxtaposition. On one side, we have his past, structured precision, the cold gray ash of the dead mountain. Everything makes perfect sense, even if it's incredibly bleak. On the other side, we have chaotic uncertainty, the unnamed beginning, the mysterious edge. This abrupt shift from a structured, understandable void into a chaotic, messy beginning is what truly paralyzes him in his tracks.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Part 5, Ash and Amber Warmth, the Sloughing and the Studio.
Because while the Baron is frozen on the cold mountain, a stark and intensely beautiful visual contrast is happening far below him in the valley. As he stands paralyzed halfway down the mountain, he looks out across the gray expanse. And there, in the dark city of Weimar, he sees a single lit window. It's described as a small amber rectangle, the rich, inviting color of a lamp burning behind thin curtains. Think about that contrast for a second. The freezing, infinite gray void of the mountain, directly opposed by the contained, comforting amber warmth of a human studio.
Someone is mixing yellow. Well, let that image sit with you for a moment. While the Baron walks still, and while this dark, metaphysical, second sloughing remains unfinished up on the mountain, down in the valley, vibrant creation is quietly happening in the dark. Life is persisting, and it's persisting in color.
This brings us to the final, haunting piece of our fable. There was a shepherd on that same dead mountain. He had sheltered in a crevasse through the terrifying night, entirely too frightened to descend in the dark. But when morning finally broke, he climbed up to the crown of the mountain, the very spot of gray ash where the Baron and the spirit had originally stood, and there he made a discovery.
There was a lamp, just resting completely alone on the cold, gray ash. It is the ultimate, beautiful juxtaposition to end our story. At the absolute peak of nihilism, at the very crown of decay, a symbol of warmth, light, and meaning was left behind. The amber warmth of Weimar had somehow manifested right at the pinnacle of the void.
This dark folktale leaves us with so much to unpack about the relationship between nothingness and creation. When we cling too tightly to the cold, gray ash of our own rigid logic, we risk being totally paralyzed when the path ends. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What lies beyond the edge of your own precision? When you run out of words, are you ready for the terrifying beauty of your own unknown beginning? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.